I fell in love with Gulf Shores, and I met the owner of Sassy Bass, which I've been working for since we opened Sassy Bass down here in Fort Morgan.
Eric Bradley grew up in South Louisiana. Now he spends a part of his day at the Fort Morgan Cafe, where he loves to serve customers Navy Cove oysters, which he helps grow and harvest himself.
We're fortunate enough to be taking seafood and oysters out of this body of water, and I'm shucking them and serving them to customers in less than 24 hours.
They say this area has been safe harbor for ships going all the way back to pirate times. Now it's safe harbor and fertile ground for oyster ranching.
We're very close to the bay, have very high salt water most of the year round, but still benefit from the nutrients that come down bay that make the phytoplankton so abundant that the oysters grow very quickly here. They're very fat, succulent, sweet, and with a hint of salt most of the year.
Chuck Wilson is a marine biologist who spent 28 years at LSU. One of his graduate students was John Supan. Today, Chuck, John, and Eric are ranching oysters in Navy Cove.
Chuck and I were looking out over this little cove, and at the time I was teaching people how to do this in Louisiana. And he said, "You think that'd be any good?" I said, "Let's put our wading shoes on and go check." And it was perfect. Hard sandy bottom, waist deep, good, close to the salty water 2 miles away. It's a perfect site. We don't even need to own a boat.
It has become a way to replace the natural harvest because that's depressed, but it also has the ability to produce a very high quality product on a regular basis while continuing to filter the bay, which is good, continuing to provide habitat for the nursery critters that depend on them, shrimp, crabs, and oysters.
I've probably heard 100 times in the past 3 weeks, this is the best oyster I've ever had in my life. And I'm thinking to myself, we're in Fort Morgan, Alabama, and I've got the best oyster in the world.
For a while, a series of circumstances, both natural and man-made, threatened the oyster industry on the entire Gulf Coast. But now, thanks to innovations and operations like Navy Cove, the oyster industry is making a comeback. Good for the industry, good for the environment, good for the consumer, and absolutely Alabama.